Welcome back to our continuing adventures on the Let's Defend platform. Today we are taking a look at the, I believe is the oldest case that I still have open for the Security Analyst Path. Medium difficulty from June 21st, 2023, 11:02 a.m., SOC211, Utilman.exe Winlogon Exploit Attempt. EventID is 161, type is lolbin. Oh man, this takes me back. With Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, you could go through and rename cmd.exe as altman.exe inside of, what was it, C Windows System 32. And then you would go through and do, like, you want to repair the installation of Windows, and you could sit there and I think it was whack the left shift key on the keyboard 5 times, and you would get a system level command prompt window to come up. And then from there, you could go through and basically change the password, add users to the box, everything else like that. It's basically one of those control takeover things if you had physical access to the box, short of going through and getting like a Hiren's boot CD or like a WinPE disk and trying to go through and do that particular aspect. So as long as you had the actual some access to be able to rename some files, and then a copy of the boot disk, well, I guess technically by that point boot CD or DVD, you could go through and have fun. So, and that is what we are taking a look today on the Henry computer. So if we take a look for March 7th, yes? No, we're looking for June. Activity in June. I was doing workstation and server tech. If people ended up forgetting passwords to the boxes, this would allow us to get back in without having to go through and just nuking and paving the system. So also was useful on servers for, not to call anybody particular out, but if they actually end up watching this, they'll know I'm calling them out. Doctors' offices that get high school students to set up their actual commercial or business network and then leave RDP entirely open and exposed that points directly to their Windows server, so that Belgium can sit there and constantly whack on it and then basically take over the box, change the admin password, and then force me to come on site to go through and change the password. Maybe we'll just leave it at that. Oh, fun times. You ever catch me somewhere and you want to hear the full story, make sure I've got a alcoholic beverage in hand. Make sure you have one for yourself and I can regale you with the tale. But anyways, so back to the actual situation at hand. So let's see, March. Wait. Okay, there we go. Now it's refreshed. That was with the last video's data for the Matthew computer for the brute force, RDP brute force. So we have proxy, firewall, all of this in May. So I don't think log management's going to help us on this one. Email. This was what now? June 2023. Nope. Nothing that stands out in regards to emails around that time. I mean, July, we finally get notice in regards to scanning activity, but nothing else past that point. Okay. Let's go take a look at the endpoint then. Here we have Henry. We have for the 6/21/2023, which matches our time frame. This is 10:06, so it's about an hour before the alarm triggers. So it looks like they must be in a command prompt. They're into C Windows System 32. They reman altman or Utilman.exe to utilman.old. Copy command.exe to utilman.exe. Yeah, sounds about right. For shutdown, and then we're getting at 11 o'clock, net user, who am I? So probably verifying that you have system level privileges. And then they are adding apparently Superman with the password of OnePunch123 to the host. And then they are adding Superman to the local administrators group. I mean, obviously, where else would you put Superman besides in local administrators? If it was Batman, well, he would just end up backdooring the system with a rat and just leaving it there and waiting until he actually has to sit there and use it in order to effect justice. Although I find it interesting that, well, I guess it could be at the lock screen too, couldn't it? That you could sit there and then kick off Utilman and then still have access. Yeah, so you wouldn't necessarily have to boot into it, as long as you could actually just sit there and be able to bring that portion up. So, okay, yeah, that's not good. I don't suppose if we take a look at the event logs, is there anything else that actually occurs past that point? Oh, they do actually apparently sign in. So C user Superman app data roaming. So they add the run wallpaper setup int.cmd. So what did they actually? They logged in as Superman. I mean, as one does. Yeah. Do we actually have? No, we don't have access to. Damn. As I say, I'd love a copy to take a look at that. CMD to see as to what that looks like. If it's literally just like displaying, system information and writing it to the background of the host on the desktop. Sysinternals has a tool that does it, like BG Info or something like that you run, and it just makes a little overlay so you get like system name, IP address, MAC address, so that way everything is readily visible if you close out all your windows, but whatever. So yeah, they were able to sign in as Superman. Just not Batman. Realistically, there's not much else to do with this. Somebody sat there and signed in locally. So because it's, I don't know, I guess maybe it could be a gag, something else like that. But typically, being inside of an organization would depend as to how this stuff goes. Likely someone's going to be fired for this, but since that would be local access control bypass, we're going to quarantine the host. Because this actually did happen, so the whole aspect of adding Superman to the local users, their local admin group, much less adding the account to the host, not to the Windows domain, but just to this particular host. So for those that might be unaware, in most Windows networks that are on businesses, they are on Active Directory. So there's a central repository of usernames and then password hashes. This means that for the most part, you could go to John and Accounting's machine and sign in as yourself. And then depending as how everything would be set up, you'd probably have your drives mapped, everything else like that. So like if you had to, your machine was dead in the water, but you had to get stuff done and John was out. If you had to do hot swaps, something else like that. This is for this machine only, the activity that's occurred. So before we had things like Active Directory, you would have to manually add users to the computer that you would go through and sign in. And then as to whether or not if they had passwords or not. Once we reached the particular portion where Active Directory was established, that kind of went away. You still may have your particular account added to local administrators, or you might just be underneath like a standard user account where you don't have admin credentials, so you can't add software, you can't change the time and date. It really just depends as to the organization. Although realistically, from the security mindset, you might want to sit there and think rather hard in regards to, do you want your end users going through just downloading anything that catches their attention and installing it on their boxes? Even with, the supposed high grade next gen AVs like CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, stuff like that. You don't really want to chance it. So all that to basically just reach this particular point. So let's take ownership. All the stuff was allowed. We did see logs in regards to. Did I not? Is my mouse jacked? Okay, no, it's just things are just having problems. I think it's about time I replace this old faithful machine. Oh, it's like a 5th gen i7. I mean, it's a big honker, 17-inch screen, everything else like that. It's just Windows 10 is going to be the last Windows operating system it officially supports. Oh yeah, Lolbin. Utilman.exe Lolbin. Lolbass. Is that actually in here, right? Yes. But anyways, so there was another article that I found to refresh my memory in regards to this, where they go through and talk about repairing your computer and then allowing you to change passwords, everything else like that. But apparently, I mean, if you were in that particular state with this Henry host, in order for the actual telemetry to be captured as to what was entered, everything else like that, Windows would have to actually be running to a particular point where whatever Let's Defend is using as an agent would be aware enough of what's going on there. Yeah. All right, hang on. Okay, so there is not an official Lolbin for Utilman, or the Tillman, Utilman.exe. They've got a particular aspect for CMD.exe, but obviously because you would still just be taking CMD.exe and just renaming it, I guess it just doesn't really warrant a discussion. Which is fine, but I mean, it's still utilizing the built-in aspects. So the binary supplied by the operating system, normally used for legitimate purposes, could also be abused, which is exactly what this is, even though it doesn't get an official entry in the Lolbass. Identify the binary. It's cmd.exe. I didn't take that, run it through an AV. I mean, realistically, we don't have to, but actually, no, I did, didn't I? I just don't think I actually brought that up. So, I mean, it's there. cmd.exe, file distributed by Microsoft. So, I mean, if you were to sit there and check, so if you grabbed an image of this system, grabbed utilman.exe, hashed it, everything else like that, popped it in here, this is exactly what you would see. Because it's all Windows is looking for is just the name of the file at that particular point when you go through and kick off the is it the on-screen keyboard, I think is what it is? I think so. Of course, this talks about the aspect of that if you do everything, you can trigger utilman Windows key U. Then have system privileges and be able to go through and do everything that you need. Yeah. So yeah, it's CMD renamed as utilman.exe. I'm just going to constantly keep walking all over that. Is the current activity suspicious? Yes. That's the same thing I have, right? Project Lowbass? Yes. Okay, yeah. So we're on the right track with that. I didn't think that there was another portion for that, but yes, because we are adding a crap. What's the activity? I mean, my first thought is a tie between credentials and persistence. Although technically, seeing as how they went through and utilized that to add a user, I'm going to say credentials. Who performed the activity? By that, it's going to be a user. We've contained the host. Now, add a... What is there to add, though? I mean, realistically. I mean, I suppose, technically, we can do... I mean, it's a hash. It's cmd.exe as utilman.exe. I mean, there's not a type for select superhero and password. So I'm thinking it's just going to be that. Because that's technically all they give us. We get the process hash of utilman, which is the DED. And when that goes into virus total, we get the aspect that, oh yeah, it's cmd.exe confirmation. Someone renamed C Windows System 32 utilman.exe to utilman.old and copied cmd.exe as utilman.exe. After restart, a system level cmd window was opened and the user Superman was added to the host and local admin group. That finishes the playbook. That accurately lays out what occurred. Come on. Oh man, I'll have to find another mouse here shortly. Close it. Ooh, and we didn't get what wasn't right. What was suspicious activity? Ah, persistence as opposed to credentials. I mean, I would think that effectively once you put the credentials in, that kind of takes care of persistence, but whatever. Let's see. Utilman.exe system file named Henry with the process tip associated with the ease of access button on the login screen was running as a command as yes, creates the command of Superman, which you would think would be credentials. Escalation of his privileges to administrators. Yes, local administrators group. The answer is persistence. Okay, fine, whatever. So there you go. Don't do credentials, do persistence. If again you're letting me run through and step on the landmines before you go through and do your own case. But that's fine. I think you could probably make an argument either which way, but what they want is persistence, so what they will get is persistence. But yeah, so there we go. I'm assuming Henry probably didn't have local admin rights to his box, so maybe this is just a way to get around it, or maybe somebody stole the box and wanted to get in. Do not know. Actually, no, I doubt that it would have been stolen because it looks like it's on-prem. So unless they set up the host IP address doesn't change. So that, yeah, nuts to that. Oh, nuke and pave, baby, nuke and pave. So there we go. For June 21st, 2023, 11:02 a.m. This has been the medium difficulty SOC211 Utilman.exe Winlogon Exploit Attempt exercise with EventID 161 type lolbin. This is a blast from the past. And with all that being said, I will see everybody in the next video.